Welcome to Insight Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm your host, Devon Jones. Today on our show, we have actor Tyler Jach. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Glad to have you. You're our first actor this season, and with your portfolio of work, it's pretty awesome because we got a feature film in there, we got a short film in there, we got a film that you directed and produced, and also we got an audio drama in there. So before we jump into your projects, let's bring us back to your journey as an actor. Tell us what made you decide that I want to be an actor, and if you can share a little bit about your first audition.
Well, I went through a lot when I was younger, and I didn't feel much motivation to continue on with everything that was happening. And I ended up finding Michael Jackson, of all people, and his music I was just so connected to because he's such a wonderful entertainer. But the word and the message that he gave to all of his fans and the rest of the world really struck home with me, and it gave me motivation to pursue something bigger than myself and to be able to talk to what I call all those little Tylers around the world that are going through things that they're told by professionals they shouldn't be able to overcome, and to let them know that they're going to be okay and that anything is possible. And that's what gave me the motivation to overcome everything that I was going through, to eventually be able to get onto that pedestal where I can speak to people all around the world about my journey and to let them know that they're going to be okay as well. So with that being said, I initially went into singing and dancing, which didn't really work very well. I was okay at it, but it didn't really click. Nothing really worked out. I then transitioned to professional wrestling, which is like WWE stuff, because my uncle actually spent his life in the business. He spent 35 years as a professional wrestler. If you're familiar with the business at all, he helped train Triple H. He was friends with Mick Foley, a bunch of really cool stuff, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And if you're not familiar with the ins and outs of professional wrestling, it hurts. It's not fake, it's scripted, meaning that there's a specific winner and you're not trying to hurt each other, but it hurts like hell. It is awful. And if you've ever wiped out, like feet in the air, land flat on your back, kind of get the wind knocked out of you, that's called a bump. You take about 10 to 15 per match. My first day training, I took about 60 bumps in 25 minutes. I had some minor internal bleeding and a bunch of other stuff, and I ended up switching to a different coach who actually owned the biggest company in Wisconsin, where I'm from. And I started training under him for quite a while, about 3 months. And then unfortunately, my uncle passed away at the age of 59, which was absolutely devastating to me. I completely fell apart. What I usually tell people is when my mom called my grandma to tell her that your son has passed away, the second thing that came out of my grandma's mouth was, "Is Tyler okay?" We were so close, my Uncle Steve and I. We were best friends. He was my biggest idol and inspiration because he was living what I wanted to do. And he proved even when you don't have that success and don't make a ton of money from what you do, to stay with it and just always do what you love. And that's what he did. And it meant a lot to me. And when I lost him, it obviously was hard on me because I was finally starting to get out of the trauma that I was going through because of all my mental health. And I was being able to finally become a little bit of a normal human being. And then my uncle passed away. And it felt like as soon as I started seeing some of that light at the end of the tunnel, it just completely went dark again because my best friend is now gone. And I was obviously upset about that, but not just because my uncle was gone, but I just had graduated high school, and that was my plan after high school, was to become a professional wrestler. And it just, I didn't know if I should do it anymore because I would like to see my future daughter walk down the aisle. I would like to have grandkids, and it's very unlikely specifically because of my height. I'm very talented when it comes to pro wrestling. I'm great at stunt work. I'm very athletic. I have a good enough build. It's just I'm 5'5", and that really hurts because my uncle was good enough to get into the WWE or companies like that. The only thing that held him back was his height, and he was 5'9". being 5'5" is extremely hard, even though the industry's changed a little bit. It's extremely hard to get to that type of a level, just simply because of something I can't control. And I ultimately decided that it isn't worth taking 30 to 40 years off my life for something that probably isn't going to happen because of something I physically just can't control. I can't stop. So that even got me into more of a hole where I was like, now what do I do? Right? I had just graduated high school. I finally got away from all my mental health and was able to see a little bit of the light and become a little bit of a normal person, but I don't know what I want to do anymore. This was also in 2020, 2021. So during the height of COVID as well. So you couldn't go out and do anything. And I was sitting on my couch sideways. Um, and I was watching TV, but my mind was very blank. And I heard a voice, and it was an unbelievable experience. I've never really had anything like this happen to me before. It was kind of a out of body, just weird experience because I heard it. Not like I heard it in my head, but I actually heard it like somebody was speaking to me. And the voice was said one word, and the word was acting. And it was very strange. I am quite religious, and I have heard that God can speak to people in many different ways. And I feel like that was him speaking to me at one of my lowest points where I finally worked so hard to get through everything that I was going through just to hit another bump in the road. And he was speaking to me to tell me where to go. So at that point, I had reached out to a friend that I had known for quite some time, and she used to model. And when she modeled, her agent used an app called Backstage, which I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I'm very fortunate with everything I have, so the $20 a month isn't that big of a deal. Subscribed, and in a few months, I finally got my first role, which was Come Out Fighting. And in the last 3-ish years, I've been in 21 films, and it has been absolutely surreal. I never expected this in my wildest of imaginations. Um, it's just taken by storm. And the thing is when I've tried wrestling and I've tried singing and I've tried dancing and songwriting, nothing's ever really clicked. It's like I get to a certain point and then I try to force it. Acting just keeps coming. And it's weird too because I don't know much about the acting industry. I really don't. I knew nothing when I was coming into this. And now I know quite a bit, but I'm not even a big movie watcher. I'm really not. And it just keeps coming and it keeps clicking and it's been surreal. And that's how I know this is for me. And specifically, and obviously we'll talk about this later, but Robertson, which was my first speaking film, um, I I was in Indianapolis for about a week and a half, and towards the end of our time filming, I was in my hotel room and I looked in the mirror and I was just like, this is what I want to do. I love this. This is awesome. I genuinely just love this. And yeah, it keeps coming, it keeps working, and I could not be happier with my opportunity in the acting field.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I love that. Congratulations on all the roles that you've gotten so far. And first, I want to say sorry for the loss in your family. And thank you for sharing that. Like you hit a lot of points that a lot of people are, I don't want to say afraid to admit, but don't really have it in them to open up that, to other people. Um, One, myself, I am a huge wrestling fan. I love wrestling, and I share similar, situations like yourself. I'm not the tallest person. I'm about 5'7", 5'8", and yes, height does play a big role. And even now with wrestling, weight plays a big role where you have wrestlers who are like 6 feet, but if you're under 200 pounds, your opportunities are very limited. Um, Rey Mysterio is a good example of, a wrestler that, with that, height limitation can still kind of push the bar, but far to slim, not many of them. Yeah, taking bumps is it takes a lot of work, and just to admit that, I really appreciate you sharing that. Um, so let's jump into your projects. You mentioned Coming Out Fighting was your first speaking role, right? That's what you said.
No, that was my first ever role.
Your
Come on.
first ever role. All right, your first
Yep.
ever role. Robertson was your first speaker
Correct.
role.
Yes.
All right. So how did it go? How did you find Robertson on backstage?
I did. So Come Out Fighting first, I was actually reached out for Come Out Fighting because they were looking for World War II soldiers that looked like they could be from that era. And mainly because of my haircut, I look like I could be from that era. And Come Out Fighting was the biggest budget film I still have ever worked on. It was like a $2 million budget. Um, Absolutely huge. It was surreal. They had real World War II military machinery and tanks and all sorts of stuff. It was incredible. And I didn't know any difference, and everybody there was telling me, "Remember this. This is amazing. You're not going to experience something like this." And it's like, okay, but truthfully, it was pretty surreal. And I was just an extra for a day in Rockford, Illinois. But that was my first ever film. And then Robertson's was my third ever film and my first speaking film. And yeah, I found that through backstage. The producer, it was kind of for him as a going away project. He unfortunately had cancer and he wanted to do one more thing that kind of made him happy and made him feel fulfilled with his life. And it was producing that film. And he had casted me basically with one audition. And he just really liked me. He liked my look. And I went to Indianapolis for about a week and a half. And yeah, it's where I learned that I really love this, and I got to figure a lot out. And the most important thing I learned there, and I tell this to anybody who I'm talking to that's trying to break into the industry, my name in the role was Pete. And there was a line, and I didn't want to change it. I just wanted to edit it, meaning the line was, "Would you please pass the pepper," for example. That doesn't come right out of my mouth. So I'm like, "Hey, can you give me the pepper?" That sounds better coming out of that. That's just easier for me to say. And I went up to the producer, James, and I was like, "Would it be okay if I edited the line like this?" And he looked at me and he said, "Well, you're Pete. What would Pete do?" And that has stuck with me forever because the amazing thing about acting in films is that you're not trying to be somebody else most of the time. You are creating that person. There is no right or wrong because that person is you. It's like you're making a second identity. And it's an incredible opportunity to be able to make another person that people can idolize and watch and everything like that. So don't feel restrained by the script. Be able to use that to your advantage.
Yes, exactly. I love that. That is so true. There's a bunch of projects that I've heard, similar situations where an actor reads a line and say, well, I, yeah, it's written nice, but I think the character themselves it would just come off more, like this. And it's nothing wrong with that. Script writing changes get made all the time on set. Yes. And that's brave to do, because everyone wants to be, doing everything the right way, the correct, and kind of timid to speak up for their character. But if anything can make your character better, yes, yes. I'm so glad that worked well for you. All right, awesome. So, you've directed and produced a short film called "I Have a Boyfriend." How is that going from, acting to actually directing and producing your film?
Yeah, I was initially drug into it by a friend that really wanted to produce something, and she didn't have much experience. So I said I'd help her with it, and unfortunately, she ended up backing out. So I was kind of in it on my own, and it was all right. It was the first time that I had ever done anything behind the scenes. Um, I definitely got some help. I have a friend of mine who is incredible. Her name is Sophia Birdsell. She is only like 15, but she is one of the greatest minds in this industry that I have ever came across. She is brilliant with script writing and editing. And when I initially learned she was 15, because I thought she was an adult, I was mind blown that she was that really just that good at such a young age. So she did a lot of script review and all sorts of stuff that she has more experience in than I did, but it was all right. I did act in the role as well. I was the killer because I know stunt choreography mainly because of professional wrestling. So I did a lot with that, and I did the stunt work. I did producing, directing, script writing, and basically everything in between. I got a cameraman that I had worked with previously, and yeah, it was interesting. Not a big fan of producing, to be honest with you. I like directing, but I really enjoy more being in front of the camera and being able to use my creativity that way instead of behind the camera. So it was all right. It was fun, but yeah, it was just a short film, and that's about all there is to it. Yeah.
All right. So for the few projects that we discussed so far and your portfolio in general, where can people find some of your work at?
So the two films of mine that I really try to show off because I'm the most proud of would be Good Night Light, which is a psychological thriller that you can find on Tubi and Amazon Prime. I believe it was also in Walmart and Redbox for a little while, but I don't think it's there any longer. So again, Tubi, Amazon Prime. Um, it's just called Good Night, Light. It is absolutely fantastic. I filmed that for about a week and a half in the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia. It is the film that I've been in that I'm most proud of. It really is incredible, and I definitely support that one. The other one is an audio drama called Queen of Babel that I had no idea how it was going to turn out, but I could not be any more thrilled with how that did turn out. It is absolutely phenomenal. It's actually one of the top 10, top 15 war podcasts in the world. It is extremely sought after. IMDb called it one of the most underrated audio dramas that exists. It has won numerous awards, and it has done absolutely fantastic. And I could not be more proud of it because it really, Queen of Battle is really, really good. And that can just be found at queenofbattlepodcast.com.
Awesome, awesome. So I like that you mentioned earlier with acting that it's not something that you thought you'd be doing. You got the sign, it was a blessing in disguise. Besides that, what would you say has been an obstacle that you overcame throughout this journey?
In acting?
In acting or directing, producing?
Sure. Um, I think at first just the constant rejection, and I think it was easier on me than it is on a lot of people because I've met people who leave the industry just because of how much rejection there is. And you have to have the mindset of going into it knowing you're not going to get the role. So in case you do, it's a million times better, even if you get a rejection letter. And, I've auditioned for or applied for at least probably around 2,000 roles in the last few years, and I've gotten 21 of them. And when I put it that way, it makes it sound like I haven't gotten anything. But when I put it the way that I've been in 21 films in 3 years, that sounds like a lot more than what it is. It's constant rejection. And most of the time you never hear back. So you send in an application, you send in a video, an audition, whatever it may be, you'll never hear back from them. Every so often you'll get a rejection letter, which is nice. And then once in a blue moon, you'll hear back saying that they're interested. So yeah, that's one of the biggest obstacles that I had to initially get over was rejection. Other than that, it's just one thing I struggle with is script memorization. Um, so I've worked a million different ways to try to remember scripts and all sorts of different stuff, turning it into a song, just rehearsing it. But the best thing that I personally found for myself, and this is different for everybody, but is reading it right before bed and then going to sleep and waking up. And for whatever reason, it sticks in my brain. More like that. But those are the two main. I haven't really experienced, as crazy as it sounds, I haven't really experienced many big challenges. It's all come a lot nicer and easier than I ever thought it was going to come.
That is good to hear. So I asked this question to all the guests on the show. What is a book, a TV show, or a movie you would recommend to aspiring actors or filmmakers?
Hmm. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend that. I would recommend a person to watch.
Okay, yeah.
And that would be I really love Robin Williams. what he was able to do is just unbelievable. And really, anybody who does impressions, I love voice acting and I love voice work. So Seth MacFarlane is another example. And if you ever have watched Family Guy, what he's able to do, so few people are able to do, and that's create a voice like the voice of Stewie from Family Guy. But he's able to then put impressions on Stewie's voice. So he's like adding two on top of each other, and it's just it's incredible for somebody to be able to do that. And specifically then to Robin Williams, the work that he was able to do is fantastic. And really anybody who is a famous actor like Tom Hanks, or anything like that, just because the biggest thing for me is spacing. And the best do it the best. And it's instead of talking to somebody like this where they can hardly understand what you're saying, but you are saying something, so I guess they could understand. You talk more like this, and it just it means so much more what you're saying, and that's just by using spacing. Um, and in acting, that is so important to give the audience a chance to think and follow along and be able to connect personally. So, really, any famous actor like a Tom Hanks, Emily Blunt, Robin Williams, I definitely would watch them.
I love that. All great choices. All great choices. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our episode of Inside Plug. Before we go, Tyler, you want to give some last few words?
Yeah, it's a quote I came up with a long time ago, but you can do anything you want to do in life. It just depends how badly you really want to do it. Um, Keep fighting, keep pushing, and there will be a lot of rejection. There's going to be a lot of denial. There's going to be a lot of setbacks in your personal life and professional life, but no matter what, just keep going strong, keep pushing forward because some say the sky is the limit, but if you look closely, there are footprints on the moon.
There you go. All right, if you like today's episode, check out our previous episode and tune in for our next episode next week. Once again, this is Devon Jones. We had actor Tyler Jach on the show today. Remember, stay inspired and keep creating. Thank you.
Thank you very much.